Hello and welcome back. This is World Talks coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Jastrzębska. Today we're looking at Bulgaria and the Prime Minister Rumen Radev, whose Progressive Bulgaria party won a historic parliamentary majority in April. The government came to power promising to tackle corruption and reform state institutions, but it's also making headlines abroad. Most recently, Radev threatened to veto the EU's 21st sanctions package over the proposed listing of Patriarch Kirill. The move fits with Radev's broader call for more dialogue with Russia and a more cautious approach to sanctions and military support for Ukraine, even as he insists Bulgaria remains committed to the EU and NATO. To discuss, I'm joined by Spasimir Domaradzki, political scientist, University of Warsaw Institute of Central Europe. Good morning, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Bulgaria has threatened to veto the EU's 21st sanctions package over the proposed listing of Patriarch Kirill. What does this reveal about the foreign policy priorities of Rumen Radev's government? And is this an isolated issue or part of a broader shift in Bulgaria's approach?
Indeed. Well, we definitely have to look at that issue from a wider perspective, because what we just saw is just another step in replacing Viktor Orban as the next hurdle within the European mechanisms of decision-making, in particular in the context of war in Ukraine. And we have to look at what just appeared as very clear examples how actually apparently Rumen Radev's tactics is to become the stumbling block under the radar of political correctness. So it is a very important moment, because what we need to emphasize is that on one hand, Radev, after taking office, made a tour visiting in particular Berlin and Paris, but also then went to Brussels, indicating very delicately that in practical terms, he is a reliable partner. He looks for economic enhancement of relations and bringing, in particular, German, but also French investments to Bulgaria. And at the same time, he's very eager to bring as much as possible EU funds. But at the same time, he sent signals that his attitude towards Ukraine is going to change. He was claiming that there is a need to pay attention to the well-being of Bulgarian citizens, not of Ukrainians, like delivering weapons that serve for Ukrainian defense is somehow connected with the Bulgarian well-being, but that's another issue to be discussed. And then he also clearly emphasized that he is going to change the Bulgarian course towards Ukraine. And now we start seeing these practical examples, which are, as I said, under the radar, because he's claiming we are not going to obstruct the common European decisions, but at the same time, the 21st package can be vetoed. At the same time, we can consider whether we are going to deliver weapons. What was one of the interesting comments after the meeting of Radev with Zelensky 2 days ago was that when the question of weapons was being discussed, there was simply silence. And that, I think, tells a lot about the shift in the Bulgarian foreign policy and its implications also for the European Union. The arguments which Radev uses, in particular for internal usage, are more than absurd. As we know, he claimed that for two reasons, this 21st package of sanctions can be blocked. One is the inclusion of the Russian Patriarch Kirill. Radev is claiming that, first of all, the Russian Orthodox Church had any role in the liberation of Bulgaria from the Ottoman yoke in the 19th century, ridiculous in itself for a number of reasons, argument, and also because the Russian Church is Orthodox like the Bulgarian, it kind of contradicts completely the argument that the Ukrainian Church is also Orthodox, but we don't see any logic here. Nevertheless, looking at this argument, we also need to have in mind that another very important player, close aide of Putin, Vadik Alekperov, is also an argument for for Bulgaria to block the 21st sanction package. And this is one of the owners of Lukoil. And in particular, we need to remember that one of the biggest refinery on the Balkan Peninsula is in Bulgaria, in Burgas. It plays important role in Bulgarian economy, and all of a sudden, it appears that this is also a good justification to block the efforts to bring the 21st package of sanctions against Russia.
Okay, so would you say that these positions are driven primarily by economic concerns, domestic policies, or perhaps just broader geopolitical considerations?
No, this is an absolutely explicit turn towards Russia. None of the arguments, including the economic ones, have any relevance. I can also add that within the justification which Radev was using was the argument that if there will be a next package of sanctions, Bulgaria don't have access to fertilizers, that Bulgaria, the subway in Sofia will not have parts for the functioning. I mean, these are ridiculous arguments. He also came up with the point that there is that the war exited the trenches. It's like I would say, a miraculous discovery, claiming that we need to prevent it from entering religion. None of this makes any sense. What is most important is that the war lasts for already over 4 years, and all the countries learned how to function beyond the dependence on Russia. It's paradoxical that after 4 years, when actually the Bulgarian position on Ukraine was relatively stable, only when Rumen Radev had access to the governments, he was able to have an impact and to meddle in the Bulgarian position on Ukraine. Now we see this as a profound turn, and it has nothing to do with economics. It has nothing to do with energy. It is purely pro-Russian attitude that the current Bulgarian government is embracing.
Now, on June 19th, the European Commission has given Bulgaria partial approval for a 1.1 billion euros payment under the Recovery and Resilience Facility. But some reform milestones remain unmet. So far, Bulgaria has received just 53% of its allocated funds compared to the EU average of 85%. So with all remaining milestones due by the end of August, can Bulgaria complete the process in time, and what happens if it doesn't?
Well, let's put it that way. What we see currently is actually a moment where what the Bulgarians mostly longed for over the last 4 years, which is political stabilization, they received it. They voted overwhelmingly for Rumen Radev and for Progressive Bulgaria. Now we are seeing the setting of this new, I would say, theoretically stable political construction, and the European Commission provided it with a certain, I would say, initial support. Bulgaria faces enormous problems related to the rule of law, related to the division of powers. No reforms in practical terms were being made since 2009. People went on the streets in 2020. Since then, there is an enormous expectation. Within the funds that you have mentioned, most of them were also being hooked to serious internal reforms related to the enhancement of the judiciary independence. What we see so far is that nothing of that was being done. But what is also most concerning, what I think will return as a boomerang at a certain point, is that actually the unwillingness to make reforms now will be replaced by a formal replacement of people that will continue to endure the same system of judicial dependence, which will return back the reflection of the European Commission to the question whether the funds still need to be released. I don't think that Bulgaria is capable of handling by the end of August to consume the whole amount of money, but let's not forget, we also don't see from Brussels very clear signals, because as I already mentioned, we have a politician who slowly but persistently turns the direction of Bulgarian foreign policy, who speaks one thing to people in Brussels and then does things that are actually contradictory to what he's saying. And in that sense, we need to be extremely careful when we think about the attitude of Rumen Radev towards the European Union.
Right. And how has Progressive Bulgaria's overwhelming majority, the win, changed Bulgaria's political environment, I mean, inside the country? You've already mentioned that they promised to reform judiciary. They're not doing anything on that so far. What else is happening?
Well, let's put it that way. The Progressive Bulgaria's win was a very paradoxical, I would say, eclectic connection of very different narratives. One was openly pro-Russian, the other one was soft reformist, the third one was kind of giving hand to the youth. All these kind of groups were being gathered together, and that's the result that we have. What has happened in practical terms is that we have a resettlement of the Bulgarian political landscape. On one hand, we have people like Boyko Borisov and Delian Peevski, the leaders of two of the most important Bulgarian political parties, who in practical terms being the source of this political turmoil, of all these Bulgarian problems, are now actually silently embedded in the Bulgarian parliament, happily living their lives without any attempt to persecute them, which quite clearly shows us that there is a kind of an agreement between Radev and Borisov and Peevski. On the other hand, we have the reformist opposition, which has completely lost its image. It is one of the biggest paradoxes of Bulgarian politics that parties that were leading the protests eventually lost the elections by pushing forward the reformist agenda, by willing to make profound changes in Bulgaria. So what we have currently in Bulgaria is a resettlement of the political landscape in which actually no profound changes are occurring. The only thing that Bulgarians get is, for now, political stability. But I think that the way how Radev deals and what arguments he uses has the potential in the future to spark protests much earlier than he could expect.
And going back to the EU, Bulgaria maintains its veto on North Macedonia's joining the European Union. How is it affecting the EU's policies in the Western Balkans, and is Bulgaria likely to change its stance at some point?
Well, yes, thank you. Let me be clear. There is no Bulgarian veto at this point, formally. The problem which North Macedonia faces in its relations with the European Union is that in the negotiations framework, there is an argument that a demand that North Macedonia needs to introduce the Bulgarian minority among the list of minorities in the preamble of its constitution. North Macedonia doesn't want to do that and has sparked an enormous, humongous, I would argue, anti-Bulgarian campaign. I think that for researchers in the future, it will be very interesting to observe and conduct a research on the comparison between the North Macedonian anti-Bulgarian campaign and anti-Greek campaign previously, when there was the name dispute. But currently the challenge, and what North Macedonia really wants, is to turn this again into a bilateral issue. But the Bulgarian authorities, and in this context there is a joint position by the Bulgarian parliament and the Bulgarian government already since 2018 and 2019, which consistently is followed by every next government. And they claim that after the French proposal, now this is an issue between North Macedonia and the EU. They know what they need to do in order to open the first cluster. We see the arguments about identity issues, the defense of Macedonian identity, which the Mickoski's government is never going to betray. This narrative definitely doesn't serve not only Bulgarian-Macedonian relations, it also doesn't serve the Macedonian road to the EU. It serves only such political leaders as Vučić and as Putin.
Spasimir Domaradzki, political scientist, thank you so very much for joining us this morning and for clarifying some of these issues.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP.